I shouldn't have gone back to the house, but the lawyer said there was a box there with my name on it. My name is Leah, and my grandmother Alera was a woman of secrets. She lived and died in that sprawling Victorian-era house on the edge of the Smoky Mountains, a place that felt less like a home and more like a living, breathing entity that watched you with its warped window eyes. The air in the mountains was always thick, even in the daytime, smelling of damp earth and pine needles rotting into sweet black mush. The drive up the winding, single-lane road was unnervingly quiet, the only sound the crunch of my tires on gravel that hadn't been disturbed in years. The house key was cold and heavy in my palm, an old iron thing that felt more like a relic than a tool. I told myself it was just a quick trip, in and out. Grab the box, maybe take a nostalgic look around the place ID spent a few haunted summers as a kid, and then drive back to the city before dark. That was the plan anyway. The first rule I broke was ignoring the silence. It wasn't an empty silence, it was a waiting one. As I pushed the heavy oak door open, the groan it let out was a sound of protest, a warning. The foyer was exactly as I remembered. Dark wood, a grand staircase curving up into shadows, and the pervasive smell of dried lavender, beeswax, and something else underneath something faintly metallic, like old pennies. Dust motes danced in the slivers of light, cutting through the grime on the tall windows. It felt like the house had been holding its breath, and my entrance was a signal to finally exhale. The lawyer's instructions were simple. The box is in the sewing room at the end of the upstairs hall. My footsteps echoed on the hardwood, a solitary sound that seemed to annoy the profound quiet. The sewing room was my grandmother's sanctuary, a place where I was rarely allowed. The door was slightly ajar. Pushing it open, I saw the box immediately. It was a simple, dark wood chest, no bigger than a shoebox, sitting in the center of her ornate sewing table. On its lid, my name, Leah, was carved in a familiar, elegant script. There was no lock. I lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was a single, yellowed piece of paper. No family jewels, no stacks of forgotten cash. Just a note in my grandmother's hand. The words were written in a dark, rust-colored ink that made my stomach clench. It read, "The rules for when I am gone. 1. Do not speak to the reflections in the windows after sundown. They are not you. 2. If you hear humming from the walls, cover your ears and count to 100. Do not listen to the melody. 3. Never, under any circumstances, acknowledge the man in the corner of your eye. He thrives on being seen. 4. You must leave before the last light fades from the sky. The house is not yours at night." My blood ran cold. This had to be a joke, the final bizarre testament of a woman who'd always been a little eccentric. I looked at my watch. It was 4:30 p.m. The sun would be down in less than an hour. A part of me, the sensible city dweller, screamed to just grab the box and run. But a deeper, more stubborn part was offended. This was my inheritance? A creepy list? I crumpled the note in my fist, a surge of anger washing over the fear. This was ridiculous. I decided I would stay. Just for a little while. To prove to myself, and to her ghost, that I wasn't a frightened child anymore. I went back downstairs to the living room, the box tucked under my arm. I sat in her old armchair, the fabric scratching against my skin, and tried to read a book ID brought. The words blurred on the page. The light outside began to bleed from gold to a deep, bruised purple, and that's when I heard it. A low, melodic hum. It was coming from the wall behind me. It was a tuneless, discordant sound, like a music box winding down, but distorted, stretched thin. It wormed its way into my ears. Rule number 2 flashed in my mind. Cover your ears and count to 100. Do not listen to the melody. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was just the house settling. Old pipes. The wind. But there was no wind. The air was perfectly still. The humming grew slightly louder, and with it came a strange compulsion. I found myself wanting to understand the tune, to pick out the notes. It felt important. I shook my head, squeezing my eyes shut. "It's not real," I whispered to myself. But it was. It was so very real. I jammed my hands over my ears, the pressure making my own pulse roar. I started counting. 1, 2, 3. The humming was a physical pressure now, a vibration in my teeth. 47, 48. I could feel a headache building behind my eyes, a sharp, insistent pain. 99, 100. I slowly, cautiously, lowered my hands. Silence. A deep, profound silence that was somehow more terrifying than the noise. I let out a shaky breath. It had worked, or it had been a coincidence. Either way, it was over. A false sense of safety, warm and dizzying, washed over me. See? It was all in my head. Just the power of suggestion from a crazy note. I stood up, my legs feeling like jelly. I needed to get out of there. The last sliver of sun was disappearing behind the mountains, casting the room into deep twilight. I turned to leave, and that's when I saw it. In the darkening window pane, my reflection stared back at me. But it was wrong. Its head was tilted at an impossible angle, and it was smiling a wide, stretched smile that I certainly wasn't. My blood turned to ice. Rule number 1. Do not speak to the reflections in the windows after sundown. They are not you. I stood frozen, locked in that terrible, silent communication. My reflection's smile widened, its eyes black and empty. Then, its mouth opened. No sound came out, but I saw the words form on its lips, clear as day. Stay with us. I stumbled backward, a choked scream catching in my throat. I tripped over a rug and fell hard, my elbow cracking against the floor. The pain was a lightning bolt of clarity. I scrambled to my feet, my only thought to get to the front door. The box. ID left it on the chair. I didn't care. I ran through the darkening foyer, my breath coming in ragged sobs. The front door was only 10 feet away. Then, from the periphery of my left vision, a shape solidified. A tall, impossibly thin shadow, darker than the surrounding darkness, standing rigidly in the corner of the room. It had no discernible features, just a vague humanoid form that seemed to drink the light around it. Rule number 3. Never, under any circumstances, acknowledge the man in the corner of your eye. He thrives on being seen. I tried. God, I tried. I kept my gaze fixed on the brass doorknob, gleaming in the near-total blackness. But I could feel it. Its presence was a cold spot, a vacuum of sound and warmth. I felt a primal, irresistible pull to turn my head, to just get a proper look, to know what it was. My eyes, betraying me, flickered to the left for less than a second. I saw it fully, and in that moment I felt the thing see me back. A wave of pure, undiluted dread washed over me, so potent it felt like a physical blow. The shadow figure didn't move, but the air grew thick and heavy, pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. The humming started again, this time from everywhere at once, a deafening, insane chorus inside my skull. The front door seemed to stretch away, getting farther with every step I took. I threw myself forward, my fingers finally closing around the icy cold metal of the doorknob. I yanked. It didn't budge. It was locked. I fumbled for the deadbolt, my hands shaking so violently I could barely function. The humming was a physical force now, pushing me down. I could feel the cold of the shadow man creeping up my spine, a tangible frost. With a final, desperate wrench, I turned the bolt and pulled the door open, falling out into the cold night air. I didn't look back. I ran to my car, my keys jangling, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. I sped down that mountain road like all the devils of hell were chasing me. I drove for 2 hours before I dared to stop at a brightly lit gas station, my entire body trembling. I sat in that sterile fluorescent light, trying to convince myself I was safe. That's when I noticed it, sitting on the passenger seat beside me. The dark wood box. I don't remember picking it up. I know I left it in the house. But here it was. I stared at it, a fresh wave of terror seizing me. Slowly, against every instinct screaming in my head, I reached over and lifted the lid. The note was still there, crumpled from my earlier anger. But now, underneath it, written in that same rust-colored ink in a space that was blank before, was a new line, a fifth rule. It read, 5. You can run, but the house always knows where you are. It has taken a liking to you. I dropped the box as if it had burned me. I sit here now in my apartment with every light blazing. I haven't slept. Every window is a potential gateway. Every shadow in the corner of my eye is a threat. I keep the rules memorized, a desperate mantra, but the worst part, the part that truly chills me to the bone, isn't the fear. It's the low, almost imperceptible hum I've started to hear, coming from the walls of my own home. It's a gentle, inviting melody. And sometimes, I find myself wanting to listen. So what about you? What's the one rule, the one piece of advice you were given that you deeply, deeply regret ignoring? Let me know in the comments below. If you felt that chill down your spine, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Until next time, sleep tight.